gentlemen, we love spontaneity. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason. I am one of your cruise hosts, and we are so grateful to have you here with us for another edition of All Access Pass. Today, I am joined by the longest-running musical group in American history, over 80 years running and going strong. Over 5 Grammy Awards plus a lifetime, and on down the list. We'll talk about it all in a moment. Make some noise for Blind Boys of Alabama. Oh, and I know one of the Blind Boys of Alabama doesn't look like he belongs, and that's probably true. That's probably true. Sorry, Charles, got to call you out. Do me a favor, sir, and tell everybody, you've been with the group since 2000, if I'm not mistaken, or just before. Tell everybody a little bit about what you do for the group, with the group, and your situation.
Yes, I'm the manager of the band, and I started in 2000. And we had 3 original members of the band at that time. Our last original member was a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Carter. He retired last year, and he's 92 years old. So
well deserved.
He earned his retirement. Actually, Jimmy Carter once went to the White House, and they showed him his ID, and they said, "Jimmy Carter, you're back." But yes, that's basically it. I have been managing the band for 25 years, and it's been 25 great years.
I love that. Yeah. Now, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to put you guys on the spot here, and we're going to do a little fun game. I know one of you has stepped up and is here with us for one of the relative first times, but we got some regulars up here. So, Joey, I'm going to start with you. Joey, I'm going to make you pick one of these members and introduce them to this fabulous audience in the honor they deserve. Pick any one of those 3 gentlemen you want and do an introduction. Actually, anybody can start. Whoever wants to start. Sterling, how about you? Let's start with Sterling. Sterling, why don't you introduce one of your 3 stage mates to this crowd?
Well, let me introduce to you. Want me to stand?
No, you stay right where you are.
All right.
We're comfy.
Well, let me introduce, how about Mr. Joey Williams? He's our music director for the Blind Boys. He's been with the group approximately about 32, 34 years. And he is not only the guitar player, but he's the one that keeps these guys in line. Never have to bother me. But he's not only that, but he's also our vocal coach and so much more for the Blind Boys. This is Mr. Joey Williams, everybody.
Oh, hey. That was JW, I'm going to make you go next. You get to pick who you want. You got a gentleman to your right and a gentleman to your left. Who would you like to introduce? Which one you want, JW?
Eeny, meeny, I want you to meet my brother Sterling Glass here, preacher, pastor, and what I like about him is, you know, he just lost his sight not long ago, and that's a tough transition. And I'm so proud of how he has grown during that journey. And you can see it and hear it in his singing and his interaction with us. He's our baritone guy. This is Sterling Glass, right there.
Don't worry, Lewis. I'm not going to make you introduce anybody up here since I know you're relatively new. But I am going to make Joey introduce you. So, Joey, tell us who that young man is on the far end next to Charles.
That young man down there on the end is our brother. He's kind of quiet most of the time, but when he gets that mic in his hand, he's a whole other person. And he'll let you know that every time he hits a song and hits the stage. This is Lewis West.
And Charles, you get to do the honors for us in introducing JW to this fantastic crowd, or Joey can.
Well, I'd love to introduce JW. JW is an interesting person because he's on his at least second career. His first career was as a college professor.
Hey.
and he was a college professor for many years at the University of Ohio, not Ohio State University, the University of Ohio. He makes that very clear. And he retired. He retired a few years ago, and now he's living his second life. And that is J.W. Smith.
Not a bad second life, JW. JW, inquiring minds want to know, sir, what did you teach at University of Ohio?
It was actually Ohio University in Athens, Ohio.
Thank you for straightening us out, sir.
I taught communication studies, which is a broad term for a number of things. I did rhetoric, campaigns, culture, and race, and communication with people who are temporarily abled and those who are differently abled.
Fantastic. How long did you do that, sir?
Too long, almost 36 years.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for retiring and coming out here to do this. I do want to speak briefly. Part of the reason I wanted to introduce up front is to focus on the fact that the Blind Boys have been around since 1939 was when they were formed. 1939. They were a sextet in the beginning. And please, any of you can jump in on this at any time, but their new book, Spirit of the Century, focuses on the start from 1939 when those 6 gentlemen, and they went to a small school for the deaf and blind, if I'm not mistaken, in Alabama. And they got together and they created a group, and they were called the Happy Land Jubilee Singers in the beginning. And that was 1939. And from there, as you can imagine, and I know none of you were there, obviously, it was many moons ago, but you can speak to, I'm sure, some of the trials and tribulations that you can imagine or were a part of or can understand to be not only black, but be blind and trying to make it in an industry which is notoriously difficult and cutthroat in a lot of ways. It's just made that much more difficult. Would one of you like to tackle possibly what you can envision that was like, or what the experience has been like for yourselves through the years? Joey, you're up.
Well, I remember Clarence, George, and Jimmy telling me about the times that they couldn't even stay where they performed. They couldn't even eat where they performed. But they would go and perform, and everybody would love them. Everybody would, pay to see them and give them all the accolades, that they deserve. But after that, then they would have to, get out. They couldn't even have anything to eat there. So, but they go on to the next place and do it again, and love it. So.
One of my favorite stories from the book from the very early days, and this is all in the book, one of my favorite parts was the fact that though the gentlemen were not sighted, they could smell a McDonald's in every city they performed in. And though they had drivers who were obviously sighted for obvious reasons, they would ask drivers, "Hey, where's the McDonald's?" Like, "There's not one here." "Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is."
And we still got one right here.
Yeah.
McDonald's guy right here.
And, it lives on.
Sterling has picked up the mantle and is trying to continue the.
Yes, sir.
I remember Clarence used to, we used to fly, go overseas, and we'd land in, a foreign country, and they would greet us, and they would go, "Oh, hi, Blind Blues, we're so glad to see you. Clarence, how was the flight?" The only thing he would say was, "Eat." And we said, "Clarence, they're trying to, They was like, "Yeah, how was the flight?" And I was like, "Eat." Clarence, yeah. "Where's the McDonald's?"
McDonald's.
Yeah, not the McDonald's, but the
Clarence-
McDonald's.
Clarence was the longtime leader of
Yes.
the band, and he was a character. And you would find out from reading the book.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good Clarence stories in
There's
the
a
book.
lot of them.
And one that's not in there was that on the first time that I flew to Europe with the band, we were flying to France, and Clarence goes, "Charles, let me tell you about France. The food there is horrible. You can't eat it, man." I said, "Yeah, I heard that." But the guys, unlike a lot of people, they loved going to Ireland because it was meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
People would say to me, don't these guys like to try the different food?" I was like, think about your grandfather being on tour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He wants meat and potatoes.
Yeah, keep it simple.
He doesn't want anything fancy. So that was.
What's
a
this
little window
escargot
into-
stuff? Give me
Yes.
some.
You don't want
yeah.
snails, right?
We flew on in Japan and on the flight, and all they had was sushi.
Of course, yeah. That makes sense.
And of course, they were starving when we landed because they refused to even touch it.
I mean, fair enough. I can imagine it would be, and this is, I'm aiming this at gentlemen who've experienced this. Obviously, food is what we eat with our eyes. We eat with our all our senses. And once you lose a sense, or whether you never had it or lost it somewhere along the way, that must become daunting in those experiences. Sushi would be a no-no for me immediately. It's not happening. Yeah, well, McDonald's over there, yeah. McDonald's, excuse me, McDonald's over there, Sterling. So the band, obviously, as you go through the book is kind of fascinating because, well, it's not kind of fascinating, it's very fascinating. It really does trace from 39 straight on through, and there were a lot of stories, a lot of goods, a lot of crazies, some rough, some overcoming obstacles left, right, and center as they make their way through. And if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me, it was around the 1980s, 1990s, after a lot of the trials and tribulations and kind of the group reformed and figured some things out, that's when the idea came on to really start to cross gospel, which Blind Boys have been very faithful to, with jazz, blues, pop, rock. Would any of you like to talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously you weren't necessarily there at that time, but how the band developed that sound and what the pathways were to get in there?
Well, Joey was there, for the most part.
Well,
Yeah, we were trying to just do different things, and Clarence Fountain was one of the ones he would always, he didn't mind, stepping out into things, and a lot of times it was mostly the producers, and the producers would bring us different songs from different people, and they wouldn't be necessarily traditional gospel songs. They would be songs from, all kind of artists, that would do it, and we would try it, and it would come out, okay. So we would try and we would record it, and that's how we got started with doing other genres and such.
Jason, can I say that?
of course you can, sir.
The beauty of what the Blind Boys do is it's all gospel. We never cross that line, but it's how we do it.
Thank you for correcting me.
And like for example, when we do our Christmas show, we do a version of Away in a Manger that you've probably never heard before. Nobody does Away in a Manger like that. That's the beauty of the group, I think.
You mean like, for instance, taking Amazing Grace and crossing it with House of the Rising Sun, which is not necessarily...
Yeah, that was something in the studio. I was fortunate enough to be there for that.
You were there for the experience.
I
tell.
sang. That's me singing the top part on that song. And when we heard it, Clarence Fountain, Jimmy Carter, and George Scott, they vehemently, they just was against it from the beginning. They said, "We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it." Jimmy said, "It's sacrilegious. We're not gonna do that." So they begged us to do it.
Who's they, out of curiosity?
The producers,
Producers,
Chris
okay.
Goldsmith and John Shalhoub, and they were our producers, and they brought it. And they begged us to just try it. He said, "Just try it. If it doesn't work out, we'll just scratch it and we'll do something else." So we tried it. So they got the music, dun, 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 and it was like, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound." Amazing Grace. And it was like, wait a minute. So at the end of it, it came out, like a hand in glove.
It really did.
It it was just meant to be. And I said, I like it. They were still kind of against it, but they were a lot less, against it once they heard it.
Yeah.
And, the rest is history.
And then once it starts selling like hotcakes, then we're really not against it. Yeah.
And that was the first Grammy. That was the first Grammy.
Yeah, the Grammy, exactly. Once the Grammy rolls in, it was all our ideas. We all were for it. Yeah.
Just to follow up on
Please.
what you're saying, though, is different styles of music may be tried as far as the musicality of it, but the message has got to be a spiritual one. And in my 25 years, as the guys said to me early on, we don't do woo, 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 I love you. And We had
But those are
plenty of
such epic
calls.
lyrics.
I'm just saying the guys didn't want to sing on love songs, even though with the rich harmonies,
Yeah.
we certainly got calls on that.
Yeah.
Jimmy Buffett called us one
Yeah.
time, sent us a song. I said, can't do it. You know,
Hmm.
there's multiple examples of that, but in the whole time I've managed the guys, always it had to be something with a spiritual element to it. And as long as it had a spiritual element, they could turn it into a Blind Boys song.
Because the laundry list of who the Blind Boys have been either requested to perform with or by, or et cetera, is unbelievable when you do take a minute to see who Blind Boys have either performed with or co-produced with, co-written with, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a hot demand. It's a hot ticket. What do you accredit other artists from other genres? What do they see in Blind Boys music that makes them hungry to collaborate?
I think we just look authentic.
Yeah.
It's hard to, fake what we do, and when they come and they ask us to do something, when we put it down, it is authentic. It's quartet, it's gospel, it's Blind Boys, and hardly anybody else can do it like that. They can get some other harmonies, guys to come in, but it's a different thing when you get the Blind Boys to sing behind it.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what it is to me.
And whose idea was it to take Tom Waits way down in the hole and turn that into something that now everybody that's ever watched HBO television in their life, The Wire being the TV show, knows as the theme song to what is widely regarded as one of the top 10 television shows of all time? Tell me how that theme song came into play.
That was, again, John Shalhoub.
Oh, okay.
It was on that same album
Yep.
as Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
And Tom Waits, he presented that song to us, and we kind of did it with the band that we had, and you heard how it came out.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. And I was actually, to that song, I was actually watching, ready to see The Wire, not knowing that the song was in the...
Oh, you didn't know?
No.
Oh!
I was, my wife and I were waiting to get, watch it.
Sure.
We heard it was coming on, and we were laying there, it came on. So it comes on, the scene comes on, and then there's a break, and then the music.
That very first episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then I said, during this break, I'll run to the kitchen and get us some drinks, and I'll come back, and I was halfway down the hall, and I heard, and I was like, and I ran back in there and said, honey, that's us. And like 2 minutes later, I was on the phone with Charles Dreby.
Where's my money?
And I was like, Charles,
No, actually, what happened was that was a last-minute thing.
Was it?
And of course, nobody knew the show, and they're like, "We're trying this new show out, and we don't know if it's going to go,
Yeah.
and we need to, we wanted to put your song in there for the theme." And I said, "Well, we don't want to be associated with like, bad stuff, I mean, we
Yeah,
wanna
of course,
be
yeah.
And oh yeah, it's just about a police investigation. Well, can I see some of the?
No.
No. We got to have a decision right now. And these are the days before cell phones and computers and all that. So, I talked to Clarence, who really was the decision maker, and he said, "How much they paying?"
Yeah.
But again, I do want to emphasize that money was not always enough.
Sure.
Money was not enough when it came to doing the wrong thing.
Sure.
But of course, now people put music in commercials and TV shows. It's just an accepted thing. But back then, it was a little less prevalent. But anyway, yes. Then the show starts, and it's like bags of heroin and,
Yeah.
and guns, and they're playing the song. But it turned out okay. Everything turned out okay except one thing. They kept using the song every year, but they used a different artist every year.
Yes.
And we would have had we would have had
stacks on stacks.
the step deal, they call it. They got bigger and bigger each year. But in the very final episode, when they reprise the show, they go back to the original song. And it's a cool moment in the show.
And that's actually kind of where I was leading to, because JW, you said it very well a moment ago that it's about the message, and that's kind of where I was leading. That is, you are now the opening song for let's just call it night. It's not exactly light Sunday afternoon watching. That had to take a second, you know, for the band in general to kind of grasp. You'd work so hard to.
A lot of people would ask Clarence, like, why are you playing at the House of Blues? Why are you playing in bars? He goes, that's where the people are.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to get the message out to. That's right.
I mean, you know, yeah, there's nothing wrong. I mean, eventually, you have to, for lack of better terms, if you're not going to stay pure gospel and be church or based, you do have to go. If you're going to reach that level of success, you kind of have to go where the people are. I mean, for lack of better terms, yeah, it makes sense. Please, Sterling.
Well, if
May
you
I
read
say
that-
something?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sterling, go ahead.
On something you just said, you know, the message is not for the people that already know Christ, but it's for the people that don't know Christ.
Interesting. Hey.
So that's what we all should do, is be going somewhere where we can reach somebody that doesn't know the message and get away from just talking to the people that do already know the message. I just want to...
No, I appreciate that because that actually makes sense. If you're watching The Wire, you probably need Jesus. So, you know, I mean...
That's one of the major themes of the book.
Yes.
Tracing the history of gospel was, in the early days, it was just for the believers. And then there was the blues and there was gospel. And the blues was Saturday night and gospel was Sunday morning. But they used to ask Clarence, you know, especially in Europe where they're a little, you know, not clear on the language. So you are a blues band? He would go, no, we're gospel. Nothing but gospel. He did not like being called blues at all.
That's fair. There's been a lot of accolades, obviously, throughout the Blind Boy's career in general. And, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. I jotted a couple down. So there was 5 Grammy wins plus a Lifetime Grammy. 6 wins?
We won this year.
Sorry, I was jumping to that one. You see how quick? Yeah. I was going to come to that one. Yes. 6 if you count this year, yes. And there were 6 other nominations as well, if I'm not mistaken. There's a Kennedy Center honor. There's a Dove Award. There is the, what was it? Oh, the National Heritage Fellowship. What is that? And I'd like to hear from all of you, if you'd be so kind. Knowing you are part of that legacy right now, whether you've been with the group for ever and a day or just a day, what does that legacy mean to you when you step out, when a host says, please welcome Blind Boys of Alabama? Any one of you can tackle. Lewis. Oh, you've been nominated, Lewis.
Okay. I think it's such a blessing to be able to be with a legendary group and to be able to spread the word and to just encourage people all over the globe. God's great planet. So I think it's great to be part of it, and I'm so blessed to be here and to be able to sing with some talented young men as they are, and I feel privileged.
Thank you, sir. J.W.
Yeah, it is very humbling, and you recognize the heritage and all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making this what it is, and you get to try to keep that going and represent it, and you don't want to do anything to mess up that heritage. And so you talk about living my best life. I mean, after all those years of teaching and all of that, and then this is the way to retire. I mean, I get to travel around the country and the world with an amazing group of people and sing and bless people and be used like it's unbelievable.
Thank you, sir. Sterling.
Well, for me, first of all, being a preacher and a pastor, spreading the gospel, which means spreading the good news of what God can do and his glory, is one of the greatest things in my life anyway. But for me, I have a special tie to this group because when I came to this group, I had just lost my sight. And I was trying to figure out how to live and how to survive. And being the father of 6 children and a husband and a guy who was getting up every day going to work, driving myself to work and everything, I really didn't know what to do. I had a doctor come in and say, okay, you're going blind. See you later. And that was it, you know. But when I got to this group, the older guys were still here for me, you know, Mr. Jimmy, Mr. Paul Beasley, Mr. Ben Moore, Reverend Julius Love, and Mr. Ricky McKinney. And then, of course, this guy here, and Mr. Greedy. So when I got here, the first question I asked when I got in the van, I said, how am I supposed to survive? And Mr. Ben spoke up, and he was a character. He said, I'm still angry. I haven't forgiven God yet. And I said,
I'm sure.
thank you. Because now I don't feel like I'm the only person. You know, I'm not mad with you, God, but I've got to understand what you're doing. And Mr. Jimmy plainly told me, he said, Sterling, God had another plan for your life. When you make plans, God starts laughing. And then Mr. Ricky finished it off with he always says something wise to you. And, you know, he said, Sterling, you don't have to understand what God is doing. Just follow him. And that's what I'm doing.
Well said. Beautiful said. Take us home, Joey. You've been here the longest. What is that's a lot of weight. You know, there's 85 years of weight. What does it mean to you, not only to be a member, but now you are the elder statesman of this group?
I grew up with my parents listening to quartet gospel music. And as a youngster, I've known of all kind of quartet groups, including the Blind Boys of Alabama. And to fast forward to me actually being a member of the Blind Boys of Alabama and contributing as much as I have. I mean, the first Grammy they won, I was there for that first one.
That was was that
Spirit of the
Century?
Century,
Okay.
with Amazing Grace and
Yep,
those
yep.
songs. And to actually be a part of it and actually contributing, you know, it means the world to me. I mean, I've said this many times, I've learned more with those guys than I could have learned at Juilliard or any school of music, you know, and I've traveled, you know, I've done more things with them than I could have done at any, job that my parents and my wife and everybody wanted me to do instead of going out on the road.
Are you ever going to grow up and get a real job?
Yeah,
one of those.
So I'm grateful for them and to them for having this opportunity, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And they've made my life kind of what it is now.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And now we know we have the book. I do want to briefly talk about Echoes of the South. Echoes of the South, where the reason I didn't mention it as a Grammy winner a moment ago is because I was going to get into it now, but I understand. We're proud. I would be too. Echoes of the South did win the Grammy for Roots and Gospel. And tell us a little bit about this album.
Yeah, Echoes of the South was a song album we put together with a lot of older quartet songs. And these were songs that the Blind Boys kind of went back and did, where we listened to and knew and kind of a lot of us grew up on in those songs. And like songs that even Paul Beasley, who's with us, that he did with other groups that he used to be with. And it was taking it back to kind of original. It kind of sort of sounds like Echoes, I'm not Echoes of the South, Spirit of the Century. Same kind of instrumentation. So it kind of broke down the music, kind of simplified it, and took it back to the roots. And it was fun doing it. That's where we first had Sterling to come sit in and listen. Yeah, he was there. That was kind of auditioned in the lobby.
As you do.
Of the session.
As you do.
As he's listening to some of the Grammy-winning songs being done that we didn't know that was happening.
Right.
Yeah, so no, that was a great session.
And you have that on board, right, Charles? That is it on board for sale as
Yes.
well? It is on board.
I've seen
correct?
it. It's I saw the LP.
I did too.
Yeah,
the
vinyl. Yeah.
Vinyl. In your opinion, we'll come to the audience in just a moment. In your opinion, and I'm asking this I have folks in my family who have one way or another lost one of their senses in for a variety of different reasons. Would you accredit it? They have when that happens, other senses enhance for my family members. I have two family members that have this. Do you have an ear for music? Would you say that is more delicate and more in tune because of this?
All right, let me address this.
Please, sir. Please educate me, please.
When you lose a sense, the others compensate, right? So you depend on them more. So the more you use something, the more efficient you get at it. Now, believe me, not every blind person can sing and play the piano.
Amen.
And not every blind person has that extraordinary ear. That is
course.
such a
Of course.
erroneous way of thinking about it. But I do think it does help you to focus more on and shut out more of the extra noise around you. I know people who are sighted and non-sighted who have perfect pitch and have amazing musical skills.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I know a lot of blind people that I would not be caught dead singing with. But people do make that assumption that everybody is a Stevie Wonder, and that's not the case.
Oh, yes.
And Joey knows that, in training some of us, it's easier than others.
No finger pointing. No finger pointing.
But the short answer is, when you do lose this one, I think it's beautiful how God allows the others to compensate for you. That's
Very well
my
stated.
opinion.
No, it's very well stated. Thank you for educating me. That's what I was not so eloquently leaning into. Not necessarily everyone that is non-sighted would have that, but for you gentlemen that do, would you attribute possibly some compensation in there for the other senses?
But I want to add one quick thing is that,
Yes.
and Joey can answer this too. I mean, not everybody it can be a blind boy either, and so you may have a certain ability, but he and others are looking for a certain sound and a certain ability to do what we need done.
Joey, would you talk about that for a moment? Or, yeah, sorry, Clint, were you going to say something?
Well, for me, I don't know about these guys. I can't hear too well. But no, I'm just joking. But
What'd you say?
for me, as a person that lost their sight later on in life, I do believe that when people lose their sight, that, as JW said, they begin to tune into another way to compensate with what they've lost. And for me, it's not my hearing, it's my smell.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
I have my wife. Sometimes she gets so upset with me. She
That's
says,
why I
"I don't
like
smell
McDonald's."
anything." Well, I smell everything.
He
And these
really
guys,
does.
sometimes I'll come in the room and I'm like, somebody's eating a hamburger from Wendy's.
Oh yeah.
And then
I know this is a
I mean,
McDonald's
from
house.
Wendy's.
Yeah.
It's from Wendy's.
There's a McDonald's house. There'll be no Wendy's in here. Blasphemy.
Yeah, so I really do believe that, sometimes you begin to train your senses once you lose something to be more stronger than the other. So.
Thank you for sharing that. Joey, JW leaned into something there. When you are auditioning new members, when you guys are potentially looking for fill-ins or replacements or however it works over the years, what are you looking for? What is the special something that takes someone who can sing and what makes them a blind boy for you?
Well, it starts with the vocals and starts with singing all parts. When I first joined the band, Clarence told me, you have to sing all parts in the background, and you have to be able to play more than one instrument. That was my requirements. So I kind of took that on with me from the time to now. And anybody that comes in, they have to be able to sing more than one part. They can't come in and say, "Well, I can lead sing it," because that's what they all do.
Everybody's a lead
Everybody
singer.
comes in and says, "Oh yeah, I can lead sing it. Yeah, where's that down in the hole? I can kill that one." So,
Give me that Amazing Grace. Come
yeah,
on.
give me that Amazing Grace. So we have to start singing harmony. So you sing all the parts: tenor, baritone, high, low, but and then being able to kind of switch, you know, kind of easily, and then be able to adapt to change and spare of the moment things, because it happens like that all the time. I mean, there's times where we have to do something where we haven't done it before. We were on The View with Whoopi Goldberg, and we had a song planned and we did it and everything, and then we had a little more time, and they said, well, would you be able to put something together like Wish You'll Overcome and just kind of do some backgrounds? Of course I said yes.
Just real quick, just plug it together.
Of
Just-
course I
just
said
throw this
yes.
together. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I ran in the back and said, okay, guys, can we do it? You know, so that kind of thing. They have to be able to do that on the spare of the moment. And then there's the, after we leave the stage thing, then there's the personal,
Yes.
you know, you can't be, you know,
You can't be eating Wendy's if we were a McDonald's group.
that's right, you know, because we are a McDonald's band. So, but you know, there's certain things you know you can't do, and you know, and so there is the personal thing part of it. But it's not as hard as you think. But some would say it is.
I mean, yeah, you have to be able to sing lead, backup, harmonize, play more than one instrument. You can't piss anybody off. It's not that hard. It's really kind of easy.
And be blind.
And be blind. And be blind. Just to top it off.
Yeah. You know,
Please, Jado.
yeah, if you're
Hey,
black and
Jason.
blind,
Yes,
it
sir.
works better.
I know you want to get to the audience. I want to say one quick
course,
thing
sir.
about Joey, and he didn't pay me for this, but I've told him this in private. I am very proud of how he has stayed and worked with a lot of blind people, because it's not always easy to do that, especially as a sighted musician. And so I just want to make that clear, that I don't know if just anybody could do what he has done as long as he's done it, and with so many different people.
That's a wonderful compliment.
And I'd also like to say that y'all clapping for him, but he's hard. he's hard. But no, he's a good guy, and you know, I thank Charles and Joey, Mr. Ricky McKinney, Chuck, who you know is our tour manager, and he deals with us to the hotels and back and forth. And when I'm crying, I go to Joey, I go to Chuck, and I'm like, I can't find McDonald's anywhere at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, it doesn't seem like a lot. I didn't realize the sacrifice these guys make until I got on the road. I thought it was easy. Looking from far away, you think this is easy what they're doing. It's not. Getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you got to be at a plane by 4, and then you get there and you know your bags are not there and you got to go sing anyway. And I mean and then you leave your family behind. Joey did this, and I had so much respect for him. Chuck has did this. When you have a family member that's sick and in the hospital, and you got to go out on that stage and make everybody else feel good, when you know that your family member is not in good shape at all, that's the hardest part. And that I take my hat off to each and every one of these guys for that.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Okay. Charles, question for you, sir. Where do you see, in your opinion, where do you see Blind Boys of Alabama headed?
Well, you know, the Temptations and the Four Tops are still around.
We hire them all the time. I know, yeah.
No original members,
Yeah.
but it's a sound.
Yeah.
And this is a sound, and one of the reasons that we get calls from some of these big names is they're, you know, as my dad used to say, it doesn't take long to call the roll in the class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just not many people doing this authentic, soulful, old school gospel sound. Even gospel radio today is very different, and the Blind Boys don't really get played on gospel radio. You know, much more under the Americana umbrella, sort of like most of the acts on this boat. But I think there's always going to be a place for authentic music that reaches the heart, and you know, oftentimes the band will play in Europe where half the people don't even understand what they're saying, or they'll be in front of people of different religions. It doesn't. You still can feel, you know, the power. So I think there's always going to be a place for it.
I agree, and I certainly hope so, and I know you'll continue to be back with us. I also find that, and I'm kind of piggybacking off of that, and Joey, please jump in. Authenticity, you know, we recognize as fans, and I'm a fan, right? I don't consider myself, obviously, I'm just fortunate to be on stage with you guys. Authenticity is a very real thing, and you may not know it all the time, but you know it when you do see it or hear it. It does resonate, and you can feel that. And I've plugged you guys from the day you joined us the first time, and I will continue to, for simply the fact that I remember the first time I heard y'all live, and it was a moment where I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. Do you feel that back from an audience? Do you get to feel that energy in return when you know you guys are doing it the way that you feel like it should be done? JW, you're shaking your head.
No, absolutely, you did, and then it just pushes you. It becomes, it's all about reciprocity. Then you give us, we give you, and then you get those moments that you just can't even capture otherwise.
Yeah, when we can be somewhere where they, like you said earlier, that they don't know what we're saying, have no idea. I mean, from like Korea to to Russia to Germany, I mean, to wherever we are, and then they're not even speaking the language. In Japan, they're just going crazy, and the people coming in backstage, and they told Clarence, they were trying to speak.
Yeah.
But they somebody translated. And she's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but and
Exactly.
Clarence said, oh yeah, no, you got the Holy Ghost, So it's that kind of thing that goes on all over the world. People just so happy no matter where we go. And we can feel that energy coming from the audience, just like here. Like the first night we got on.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. The crowd was so crazy. I remember some of you guys out there too. There were some of the people out there, guys. At the show. Yes, and they were screaming. They were having a good time. And we felt it too. We love it.
I think that that's commonly something that gets lost, and I know we have pure music fans on this charter, but speaking in general, for a lot of music fans, we all see things as fans when we are, sighted fans, we see things through TV, we watch it through iPads, we watch it through our phones, or we hear it in a place, or hear it in that same way, where we don't have to respond. So we almost forget that there is someone in front of you that is performing at times. And that fourth wall in entertainment, if you've heard the term fourth wall, it's the wall between you and the people on stage, where when you're watching TV, right, you see something funny and you might, but if you see a comedian live, you belly laugh more. Or if you hear one of your favorite songs done by Blind Boys, it is that motion, whether it's the Holy Ghost or whatever it is hitting you. And I think that it's lost sometimes how great it is as a performer to feel and hear the audience really, really in the pocket, getting involved and screaming back to you. And it's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's something that I always push for as a host is please. That's why I say that every night. Let them have it. Like, this is not a quiet show. Give it back to them. Charles, I'll throw one back to you here for the end. This book, just to wrap back to the book's fantastic. I loved it personally. I read it pretty much in one go. It is historical from 1939 almost through to today. It's pretty close. And what would be your final pitch? Why should people go and buy this book? Or Joey, either one of you gentlemen can take it. What are people going to get from the book?
I mean, first of all, it's entertaining.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it is.
It's a good read. You learn a lot. Look, this is a span of American history from, well, actually it starts when the guys are born in the early 30s until now. So it's almost 100 years of American history from Alabama with African-American guys who were blind.
Yeah.
Whoever thought they were going to do what they've done? It's an amazing human story. That's what I would say about it. But at the same time, there's a lot of background about the whole way that this gospel circuit worked. They called it the golden age of gospel and the gospel highway. And all of these people like Sam Cooke and Ray Charles who, were in the gospel world, crossed over. It's just to me, it's super interesting because I love to hear the music history part, but just the cultural history is an interesting facet of it. And of course, there's some good stories along the way.
We'll call them character stories along the way.
Right.
I found it fascinating who was inspired by and who was inspiring both sides of that coin throughout that early gospel days, and some of the names that you just said, but many others that you don't even think of necessarily in that vein. You know, when Prince calls the Blind Boys, it's like, man, I have to work with y'all. Like, that's not something you necessarily, as a general music fan, would connect too easily, but it
Actually,
does.
the one you really wouldn't connect was Lou Reed,
Lou Reed, yeah.
who loved the
Yeah.
Blind Boys, and we did a lot of different things with Lou, and that was cool.
I mean, Peter Gabriel fell in love with. I mean, there's so many names that just fell in love with that sound. Gentlemen, thank you so much for gracing us with your time and your presence and your word out here. It's much appreciated by. I'm sure I speak for everyone here in the audience. And we'll end it up with an easy one. What's next? What's next, literally, for Blind Boys of Alabama in terms of after this cruise? What do we got coming up on the docket? Where can people see you moving around? Do we know any tour dates or anything out there?
Naples.
Naples.
I think the next day.
Next day.
Naples, Florida.
Naples,
Naples,
Florida.
yeah.
Okay. Phew, better food. Oh, phew. Yeah.
New Jersey at the end of the month.
Jersey at the end of the month.
And Arizona next month. It's pretty much on the website. Yeah.
And how many dates? Sorry, I just sparked this last question. I apologize. How many dates a year are you guys doing right now? It ideally.
Is it
Don't look at me,
100?
I'm just a passenger on the train.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe 100.
100 dates is a
Probably
lot of
100,
dates.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's a European tour coming up this
Is it?
summer, and but yeah, I before we leave,
Please.
we had discussed the possibility of maybe singing a song.
Listen. I mean, I didn't want to pressure the gentleman to do it, but now that you say it, I'm going to pressure the gentleman to do it. You want to hear the Blind Boys do the song for us? Would you gentlemen be so kind? No pressure. But, you know.
Those curveballs,
Oh
gentlemen.
boy, curveball. See, this is what I was talking about. See, I mentioned this earlier. Last minute. All right. Let me see. Let's see if I got a little pitch pipe on this.
This is not an a cappella group, as you know. Those the folks who saw the show know, but they can sing some a cappella when required.
Oh yes, it's praying time again. You're gonna need him. It's praying time again. You should want him. Can't you see the world is near? The end of time. It's praying time again, my friend.
One more time.
It's praying time again. You're gonna need him. It's praying time again. You should want him. Can't you see the world is near? The end of time. It's praying time again, my friend.
In Africa, they are starving. They don't even have food to eat. But if we get down on our bending knees, I believe he'll meet us there. And it's praying time. It's praying time again.
Oh yes, it's praying time again. You're gonna need him. Yes, it's praying time again. You should want him. Can't you see the world is near? The end of time. It's praying time again, my friend.
How often do you get that in your life? A small room private serenade from Blind Boys of Alabama. The the gentlemen have agreed so graciously to head out and actually sign some autographs with their book and Echoes of the South out there. So we're going to take them around, and we'll be just outside there in just a couple minutes. So if you'd like an autograph, if you'd like to come say hello, you're going to exit that door over there, and we'll get you all lined up. One more time, please help me thank the Blind Boys of Alabama.